If your car breaks down tomorrow, how bad is it? Annoying or life-altering? Be honest. Would it ruin your week or would it threaten your rent? Because that difference between inconvenience and instability is the line most people live on. And that's why it sucks to be broke in America. Not because you have nothing, but because everything works until one thing doesn't. The morning nobody talks about you, wake up before your alarm, not because you're rested, because your brain is already running numbers. You reach for your phone, bank app. You tell yourself it's just to stay on top of things. But there's always that half-second pause while it loads. That micro-stress, that quiet fear. What if it's lower than I thought? That feeling doesn't show up on Instagram, but it shapes your entire day. You get dressed, commute, clock in, you look normal. But inside, you're balancing a tightrope. It doesn't collapse, it compresses. People imagine being broke as dramatic, but most of the time, it's subtle. You're not starving, you're not homeless, you're just tight. Tight when rent increases again. Tight when insurance renews higher. Tight when groceries somehow cost 30% more than they used to. You adjust. You cut small pleasures. No more eating out. Cancel one subscription. Delay replacing worn shoes. Life doesn't fall apart. It just shrinks. Slowly. And when life shrinks long enough, you stop remembering what expansion felt like. The paycheck illusion. Payday hits. For a moment you feel powerful. The number looks decent. You breathe easier. You imagine progress. Then reality withdraws. Rent clears. Utilities clear. Debt payments clear. Gas. Groceries. Minimums. Within days, you're back near the edge. You didn't splurge. You didn't go crazy. You paid for existing. That's the exhausting part. Working hard doesn't feel like building. It feels like maintaining damage. Hope spikes, then drops. Every month. That emotional cycle wears people down. Not instantly, gradually. The emergency you don't want to think about. Here's the question sitting in the back of your mind. What if something goes wrong? A chipped tooth, a reduced shift, a tire blowout, a surprise medical bill. You don't need 10 disasters, you need one. When you're financially secure, that's inconvenience. When you're broke, that's destabilization. You start rearranging due dates, choosing which payment survives, negotiating with time, and living one step from destabilization changes your nervous system. You become cautious, hyper-aware, defensive. That's not weakness. That's survival mode. The margin misunderstanding. Let me say something clearly. If you're broke in America right now, it's not automatically because you're lazy. It's not because you lack ambition. It's because you're operating without margin in a system that punishes thin margins. Most people misidentify the problem. They think the solution is just make more money. But income without margin still creates pressure. Margin is the real currency. Margin is what allows you to think long-term. Margin is what lets you say no. Margin is what turns fear into strategy. Without margin, even good decisions feel dangerous. That's the trap. The ownership divide. There's a quiet divide in this country. Some people own assets, others finance them. If you own, time works for you. If you don't, time becomes expensive. Rent increases annually. Interest compounds daily. Prices adjust upward. You feel like you're running, but you're running on sand. Effort doesn't create lift. It creates maintenance. That's why it sucks to be broke in America, because you can exhaust yourself without gaining altitude. The comparison engine. Now layer culture on top. You scroll, vacations, upgrades, new businesses, soft life, everyone looks ahead. You compare your internal stress to someone else's highlight reel, and something inside you tightens. Maybe I'm behind. Maybe I messed up. Maybe I'm just not built for this. Most of what you're seeing is leverage, but perception shapes emotion, and emotion shapes confidence. Confidence determines action. That spiral matters. The psychological erosion. Long-term financial pressure changes identity. You hesitate before spending $20. You avoid checking statements. You stay in jobs you've mentally outgrown. You shrink your ambitions to match your bank balance. That's the part nobody talks about. Being broke isn't just external, it's internal. It compresses your self-concept. You stop seeing yourself as someone who builds. You start seeing yourself as someone who manages damage, and that's dangerous. Why it sucks, clear definition. So let's define it precisely. It sucks because you can do everything right and still feel unstable. You can look fine and still feel one bill away from panic. You can work full-time and still lack breathing room. You can follow the rules and still not own leverage. And worst of all, it feels normal. Everyone's tired, everyone's stressed. So you assume this is adulthood. It's not. It's thin margin living. The shift from survival to control. Here's the shift that changes everything. The opposite of broke isn't rich, it's control. Control begins with space. Even a small emergency fund changes your posture. Even one increasing skill changes your confidence. Even one eliminated debt changes your trajectory. Small wins create psychological expansion. Expansion changes decision-making. Better decisions compound. That's how escape actually begins. Not dramatically, directionally, full circle. So let's go back. If your car breaks down tomorrow, how bad is it? Annoying or life-altering? That answer tells you whether you're surviving or stabilizing. That's why it sucks to be broke in America. Because everything feels conditional, because pressure feels constant, because margin is thin. But once you stop chasing appearance and start building space, you stop living on the edge. You start building control. And control is the beginning of freedom. If this resonated with you, make sure to like the video. Subscribe for more content on money, mindset, and building margin. And drop a comment.